want to skip ahead here in terms of the lessons, because what is your, I feel like we have seen on some level over the past couple of years, we've had sort of, I don't know, shadows of conflicts between capital. Like it does not feel like there is within conversations where people are talking about reforming, our politics or the Democratic Party, that there is really a terribly sophisticated level of distinction of the types of capital. And we see it only in the context of, let's say, like the net neutrality fight, or maybe in the Affordable Care Act fight, where like pharmaceutical industry is, there against insurance companies, or vice versa, or something like that. Or, and so, give me your sense of like how, if we were not to repeat the mistakes of not having a full sense of the terrain at that time, what would we see today in the Democratic Party?
Well, I think the Democratic, I absolutely agree with what you said about, there's just not much consciousness of the kind of sections of capital that are most key to the Democratic Party today. And I really think there needs to be, and one of the absolutely central ones is the tech industry. In 2012, the tech industry, and especially those firms that were linked to the NSA spying operations, those firms that were, that we found out from WikiLeaks that they were, and from Glenn Greenwald, how they were cooperating with the government in the spying. Those firms went very hard for Obama in 2012. Mitt Romney got more money kind of overall from capital, and managed to swing Wall Street behind him. But Obama had some key sources of strength and tech was chief among them. And I think that's really crucial to realize, as, the specter of kind of tech authoritarianism, and is Silicon Valley just going to rule the country? It becomes more and more a question in American politics. The fact that the Democratic Party today is firmly in alliance with those firms is a real question that has to be confronted, I think. And with, then there's other sections too, like real estate, for example. And real estate and tech obviously go very well together. Those two have both benefited a lot in places like the Bay Area and California. And real estate is a traditionally Democratic constituency because, Democrats are generally for more government spending, and government spending on various kinds of projects raises property values. Right. So real estate usually likes the Democrats, which is kind of ironic. This election, you have this kind of real estate mogul running on the Republican ticket, right. but generally that's the political split. I think this election with Hillary Clinton, we're going to see a united coalition of capital behind her that will be unlike anything we've seen since 1896, when McKinley managed to bring basically all of capital behind him against William Jennings Bryan. I think we're going to see, if you follow the news on, there have been stories about the hedge funds and how hedge funds are going for Hillary harder than ever before. How there was an article about how the defense industry, which usually kind of splits its money pretty evenly, who's ever in office is going to spend a lot on defense. How they're going hard for Hillary. I think when the dust settles, we're going to see that this election was shaped by an absolute tidal wave of cash that we haven't seen for something like a century.
And so, but what happens afterwards? I mean, because on one level, there's a certain sort of like a sui generis situation here with Donald Trump, where, everybody's just simply afraid of like what it means to have someone like that as be president. And nobody's people, it's like one of those first times where you could actually say with some, I think, sincerity that there's a certain amount of uncertainty involved here that capital is not interested in. But what happens the day after? Like, obviously, these interests have some conflicts. Do they or don't they? I mean, I would imagine, like, on some level, real estate. I mean, Lily Geismer wrote a book about that period that we're talking about with McGovern that suggests that even at that time, the Democratic Party was looking to the sort of the suburbs and the tech industry Maybe it's not
Right.
necessarily maybe that's the antecedent to the one we have now. But are there conflicts that arise, or are there opportunities? Because, I don't know where Uber fits into this, but we can also, I mean, there's never been, I don't know, I certainly have never been aware of a company that has closer ties to the Democratic Party than Uber. I mean, it just seems, maybe I'm just conscious of it because it was all over at the convention. And I imagine there's some labor issues, there's some conflict there. But where are the fissures going to appear, if you have any sense?
So I think part of the answer here is that we can't really know that until we get moving. And for me, that's one of kind of the key lessons from the 30s and the 70s, is that the fissures between sections of capital are only really activated by movement from below, by disruption that's imposing costs. And when those costs are imposed on capital by strikes, by protests, by us creating uncertainty rather than Donald Trump creating it, that's when you see capital begin to sort itself out into the sections that decide that, diminishing uncertainty right now means living with some reforms, and the sections that say, nope, we have to get rid of this all. We can't bear any reforms. And I think, to a certain extent, I think that, right now, you just can't predict that, since the level of disruption and the level of movement from below is still quite low, unfortunately. Even after, spectacular movements like Black Lives Matter, that have been oriented at disruption in a way that, Occupy wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the level that's going to be required to render those contradictions dynamic is much higher, so for me, that's kind of the key lesson of this. Is our central task is building our disruptive capacity, because once we do that, that's when we can begin to see the kind of that's what will light a way forward, right? That's when we can see some of the fractures in capital that'll let us form a bigger strategic approach. But yeah, right now, you can just kind of see small skirmishes here and there, right? One area I think is around prisons, right? With the Koch brothers and various groups saying, okay, we are spending way too much on prisons. It's a huge, the inhumanity of the system is really bad press. They need to be reformed somehow. I think that's one area that there's clearly disagreement within the ruling class about it, and hopefully we can leverage it. I'm hopeful that Black Lives Matter can develop into something that's capable of leveraging those disagreements into something that really strikes a fundamental blow at mass incarceration.
Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.